And red-hot inflation and the strong dollar is having an impact right across the Middle East region and the Gulf. Here in the UAE, the currency peg means the central bank is hiking rates in near lockstep with the US Federal Reserve. I asked the UAE Economy Minister what that means for the domestic growth outlook and about Investopia, the new summit aimed at attracting FDI and driving diversification.
Well, we've seen 80% of global economies, advanced economies, and 60% of developing economies, a 5% inflation on the global level. We've seen challenges such that the UAE as well has a very strong support on the fiscal policy. Our central bank is really putting the aspects on that kind of guideline, and I think it's important to really allow the central bankers to really come back with the aspect of combating a little bit of the challenges. What we do in the Ministry of Economy, I think it's important as well. We look at the consumer protection. We try to actually, with the CPAs that I mentioned, increase trade flows. So we managed to really manage the supply part of the graph to ensure goods comes into the UAE with low tariff to allow more reduction on the inflation part. That's something that we are. But one of the most important part as well is the UAE's economy is very agile. So we have adhered the last 2 years agility as a skill to make sure that we adapt to what's happening globally. Inflation will be around for the next at least 6 months. And I think it's important that we keep that kind of management between the fiscal and economic policy very close.
Of course, the currency peg with the USD means that the local central bank has to move in lockstep with the US Federal Reserve. So as we continue to see the Fed hiking interest rates, what impact will that have locally? Should we expect a moderation in economic growth?
Well, actually, saying that and saying as well that the UAE, some countries will have some internal challenges when it comes to inflation. Some countries will have challenges when it comes with imported inflation. And that's something which we look at. But then as well, we see the dollar has appreciated with other currencies globally. And we've seen as well that kind of as well reduce a little bit kind of the import inflation to the UAE. We've seen as well the number of monitoring tools that we really look at the central bank and the role to really put the fiscal policy and the monetary policy in the right aspects to make sure that we align and balance between fiscal, monetary and economic policy moving forward in the UAE.